All right, time to talk helicopters. I bet you dreamed of being a pilot as a kid, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty common one.
Totally. But you're not just daydreaming anymore, are you? You came prepared. RoleCatcher, smart move. They've got some seriously in-depth career resources.
They really do.
So let's stop messing around and deep dive into what it really takes to be a helicopter pilot. Like we see the Hollywood version, but what does a pilot actually do all day?
Well, it's more than just flying.
Right, it's got to be.
It's a constant blend of technical know-how,
Right.
and being able to think on your feet.
Okay, I like that. I like that. So what does that actually look like day to day?
So, for example, RoleCatcher talks about flight planning, but it's not just looking at a map and going, looks good to me.
Yeah, no kidding.
Exactly. They use these things called aeronautical charts. It's like Google Maps, but way more complex.
Okay, like for pilots.
Exactly. Way more detail about airspace, elevations, weather. It's a lot of data to process. Serious precision is needed for that. And then even before you take off, there's the pre-flight inspection.
Oh, right. Got to make sure everything's working.
RoleCatcher's guide goes into detail about this. You're checking for leaks, making sure those controls are responsive, fuel levels.
Like a million things could go wrong.
It's all about catching those tiny details that could cause a huge problem when you're up in the air.
No kidding. Makes you realize the huge GE responsibility pilots have every time they fly.
Absolutely. A loose screw, a misread gauge, it could be disastrous.
Right.
So, yeah, those inspections, they aren't just a box to tick. It's constant vigilance, judgment, being able to assess a situation on the fly under pressure.
Wow, intense. And it's not just one type of flying either, right? Like this isn't a one-size-fits-all career.
Definitely not. One thing RoleCatcher highlights is the sheer variety of pilot roles. One day you could be flying a CEO to a meeting. The next you're transporting medical supplies, maybe even helping with firefighting.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So you got to be adaptable.
Exactly. You have to be able to handle anything.
Which probably plays into the work-life balance, which isn't your typical 9 to 5.
Right. RoleCatcher doesn't shy away from those realities. Long hours, time away from home. You could be stationed at a busy airport, a city helipad, even a remote outpost somewhere.
So not for everyone.
Right. And that's where self-assessment is key, which RoleCatcher talks about.
Oh yeah, they had a whole section on that.
It's about knowing yourself, knowing what you want. They lay it all out, the high pay, the adventure, the travel, but also those long hours, that responsibility, potential for stress.
It's a trade-off. Got to ask yourself, is this lifestyle really for me?
Exactly. So let's say you're up for it. Where do you begin?
Well, you need a pilot's license, right?
Sure, but that's just the start. Think of it like a learner's permit. It gets you going, but there's a lot more to it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So what else does RoleCatcher recommend?
Experiences. Diverse experiences. Like, they even suggest looking into the military, working as a flight instructor, even spending time as a helicopter mechanic.
Wait, really? A mechanic? Why would a pilot need to know how to fix a helicopter?
Because it's all connected. The more you understand about how the machine works, the better pilot you'll be.
Okay. So it's not just about logging those flight hours.
Nope. RoleCatcher is looking at the big picture. If you understand the mechanics, you can troubleshoot during a flight, maybe even anticipate problems, and you can communicate with the crews better, too.
That's a good point.
It shows you have a deep understanding of the machine you're responsible for.
Right, right. So it's not just about being a good pilot. It's about being a smart pilot, a resourceful pilot.
Exactly. And that commitment to always learning, it's huge. RoleCatcher really emphasizes getting those additional certifications.
Like what?
Well, your CPL, your commercial pilot license, and an instrument rating, so you can fly in tougher weather.
Makes sense.
It's how you show off your skills and move up.
So you're like a lifelong student of the skies.
Pretty much.
That's kind of cool, though. But okay, before you can even think about those certifications, you got to get that first job.
Right. And now AI is changing that whole game.
Completely. It's like everything's going digital.
And RoleCatcher gets that. They've got all these AI-powered tools built into their platform now. It's the future of job hunting.
For real. I mean, this whole beat the automated recruiter section, it's kind of wild. They say there are algorithms now that just scan your resume and decide if you get an interview.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that's how it works now.
So how do you stand out to a computer?
You have to understand the tech. It's not about tricking the system. It's about understanding it.
Okay, so keywords, formatting, stuff like that.
Exactly. And RoleCatcher is big on tailoring your resume to each job. They even have this AI co-pilot that'll tell you what skills you should be highlighting.
Wow, like having your own career coach.
Right. Got to take advantage of those tools to stand out.
It's like you're playing the algorithm, but in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. Working smarter, not harder.
Right.
And speaking of smart, you mentioned something earlier, the different stages of a pilot's career. You don't just get your license and you're set, right?
No, definitely not.
RoleCatcher's really good at explaining how it actually progresses.
Yeah, they had all those descriptions. And you realize how much goes into it, becoming a senior pilot. So break it down for me. What's that path look like?
Well, you start as an entry-level pilot. You're basically learning the ropes, assisting the more experienced pilots,
Okay, makes sense.
helping with flight planning, doing those pre-flight checks, getting comfortable with transporting people safely.
Coning those skills.
Exactly. RoleCatcher actually has this profile, an entry-level pilot, and they talk about a keen eye for detail, especially with those flight logs and records.
Oh, yeah, keeping everything organized.
It seems small, but accuracy is crucial at that stage.
Right, building that foundation.
Exactly.
Okay, and then you become a junior helicopter pilot. What changes there?
You get to spread your wings a little more. More independent flying, planning, and executing flights, taking weather into account, airspace, fuel, all that.
So way more decision-making.
Definitely. And RoleCatcher points out, you gotta be ready for emergencies too. Like something happens mid-flight, you have to stay calm and know exactly what to do.
Talk about pressure.
It is, but that's where the training kicks in. RoleCatcher talks about ongoing training, simulations, to be ready for those moments.
So always pushing your limits.
For sure. And then more experience, you move into those mid-level and senior roles. Even more responsibility there.
What do those look like?
Mid-level, you're not just flying, you're coordinating. Flight planning for multiple helicopters, managing crews, maintenance, assessing risks. It's leadership now.
Whoa, like you're the one in charge.
Yeah. Big picture stuff. And at the senior level, it shifts even further. You're making those long-term plans, strategic plans, safety, regulations, all that.
They had that example of a senior pilot who everyone looked up to, right?
Mhm.
Management, clients, it's impressive.
You become a mentor, a leader.
Really cool. So you see how it's not static, it's constant growth.
Exactly.
But even with all that, you've still got to navigate the job market. And like we were saying, tech is huge now.
Absolutely. And it's changing all the time.
I'm still blown away by that AI resume thing. Like, it knows what the employer wants to see.
It's pretty amazing. And RoleCatcher gets it. They're all about giving people the tools.
Yeah. Their whole Beat the Automated Recruiter section was super helpful. They break it down into easy steps.
Right, so you don't feel overwhelmed.
Exactly. They tell you about how the AI scores you, what resume format to use, how to tailor it.
And they don't just tell you, they have features that do it for you. Like that AI analyzes the job description, tells you what skills you might need to add.
That's why.
It's like a secret weapon for your job hunt.
Totally. And then, get this, they have this thing where employers can actually find you
Yeah.
based on your skills.
It's about making the system work for you.
Imagine that. Instead of chasing jobs.
The jobs come to you.
That's awesome. Okay, so we've talked about a lot what it's really like being a pilot, the hours, the career, this whole tech stuff.
It's a lot to take in.
It really is amazing. But it all comes back to, like, why do you want this? What gets you excited about becoming a helicopter pilot?
It's got to be more than just a job, right?
Totally.
And it's funny, with all this amazing tech we've been talking about, RoleCatcher also mentions something else. Unmanned aerial systems, drones.
Oh, right. I saw that. We didn't get to that.
Yeah, how do those fit into the picture? Well, imagine this. You've got all the skills, the spatial awareness, understanding aerodynamics, but now you can program, operate these crazy advanced drones. It's like a whole other thing opening up in aviation.
Wow. So it's not just about the helicopter anymore. It's about these autonomous systems, too.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, what does it mean to be a pilot these days with all this automation changing things?
That's a good question.
Like RoleCatcher's showing you not just what the job is, but what it could be.
I like that. So it's like this whole other path is appearing.
Maybe you could be one of the ones shaping it, right?
That's really cool. It's not just flying, it's the cutting edge of tech.
That's what's exciting.
Totally.
Yeah.
This whole deep dive has been incredible, like from pre-flight checks to the future of flying. And it all starts with being curious, right? That drive to explore, which you obviously have.
And RoleCatcher, they give you the info to make it happen. It's a good time to be into aviation, that's for sure.
It is. All right, that about wraps up our deep dive on becoming a helicopter pilot. Hopefully you feel inspired, you've got ideas, maybe you're even daydreaming a bit yourself now. Keep that curiosity going, keep learning, and hey, who knows, maybe we'll see you up in the air someday. Until then, happy flying.